Welcome to Wellywood Wargaming, where the grim dark never sleeps. Crack open a bottle of wild snake and spark up a low stick as we take a journey down Underhive.
Howdy Hive Scum and welcome back. A Cyber Mastiff is not just for Sanguinala, it's for Christmas. An important message as we go into a full tier list for all of your fluffy little pets in Necromunda. Now I've done tier lists for brutes, for gangers, for leaders, for everything else in Necromunda, for full gangs as well. So I thought it was probably about time I did one for pets. Now it's always difficult doing these tier lists, and I appreciate that the meta is going to be different in your groups, and your experiences in the game vary very differently depending on where you are, who you're playing against, and what you're playing as well. But I would say overall that pets are a little bit underwhelming. I really enjoy using them in Necromunda. They're great modelling opportunities as well, and who doesn't like pets in general? Your fluffy little friends. But yeah, what I've done here is I've scored things out of 5 for a number of different factors, like I did with a lot of my other videos. In this case, I've got 4 tiers here. We've got tier 4, which is the absolute worst. Let's see if you can guess what's going to be in these tiers. We've then got tier 3, which is pretty much average or under average. Tier 2, which is okay or pretty good. And tier 1. And then lastly, we've got a single tier 0 as well for you today. Now, the way that I've scored them is out of 5 points for each of the following categories. 1 being terrible and 5 being very good. We've got melee, we've got ranged, which not many of them have ranged attacks, of course, so most of them score fairly low here. We've got special rules, so what kind of special rules they have. Are they any good? Are they just kind of crap, or are they just very fluffy? Pun intended. We've also got durability, how tough the pet is. We've got mobility, how fast and maneuverable they are. We've got versatility, what they can do, whether they are just a one-dimensional type of pet or they can do many different tasks. We've got skill access, so the types of skills they can get access to should they level up and not get squished in the process. And lastly, we've got gang value, what they actually offer to your gang, which I think is a really important way of measuring how good these pets are, because some of the pets just don't give their gang anything new or anything that they don't already have. And I think you can imagine which ones I'm talking about there already. Anyway, lastly, we've got the category of cost as well. How cost efficient these pets are. Are they cheap? Are they expensive? Are they worth it? Most importantly, I've scored all these out of 5, and the highest here has 31 and the lowest has 18. So there's quite a bit of swing in it between the 4 tiers, but let's get into it. Again, I'm fully expecting not many people to fully agree with me on all of the positions here. And, you know, we could move things around a little bit, but this is just the way that I've scored it based on my own playing experiences with all of these pets. So let's start at the absolute bottom with tier 4. These guys are unfortunately just really bad. Now, this is December. We are nearly in Christmas, or should I say Sanguinala. So I'm using the rules for the new stuff that's in the new and updated books as well. So please remember, things have changed for a couple of these as well. And this is the most updated versions of them as well. But absolute rock bottom, unfortunately, is the hacked Cyber Mastiff. The Cyber Mastiff that goes insane on a 1 when you activate them. That is, unfortunately, the worst special rule you could possibly hope for, and it just means that these things are crap, quite frankly. I've scored them pretty low in most areas. They're okay in close combat. You know, they're the same as a regular Mastiff, really, in a lot of other ways, but the fact that they go insane, or they can go insane and turn on their own masters, is very fluffy and very sort of narrative and interesting. I do really like the special rule. It's just a bit too harsh, unfortunately, and that is why the hacked Cyber Mastiff is rock bottom. Typical. Bloody flies in here. Anyway, let's move on. We've got the Cyber Mastiff just slightly above that on 20 points. So only 2 points more, but, you know, the special rules for the Cyber Mastiff are pretty good. And I think those Orlock players out there are going to be really angry with me by putting this guy in tier 4, but he's just not very good for the cost, unfortunately. They are far too expensive for what they do. And should they be half the cost, they would be a really good pet. And they've got some good special rules, like I said, especially with the sort of coup de grace, sort of, you know, anti-coup de grace mechanic that you've got in there as well. But as is, the Cyber Mastiff is too expensive and just not very good otherwise. They're very average sort of pet, in my opinion anyway. So, you know, do let me know down in the comments if you've had great experience with Cyber Mastiffs and you're a dog lover. I'm not. But then we've also got the Sump Croc as well. So the Goliath and the Orlock players among you are going to hate me for this, but the Sump Croc is just, it's just not very good. And I can see you disagreeing with me on this, and that's absolutely fine. It's good in terms of its stats. It's very tough. It's very durable. It's decent in close combat. But the main letdown for the Sump Croc, in fact, there are three, in fact. The three sort of main letdowns for the Sump Croc. One, it's very slow. And it doesn't, it's not faster than any of the rest of your Goliath gang. The other thing that leads into that really is it doesn't offer Goliaths anything new at all. It is a close combat monster, like most of your Goliaths. It's tough, it's durable, it's the same really. So it's not offering Goliaths anything different. And then lastly, the biggest sort of point here is it's very, very expensive as well. So again, for me, unfortunately, the Sump Croc is in here on 22 points, mind. It is above the Mastiff. So, there's quite a big difference between a Sump Croc and a hacked Cyber Mastiff, I have to say, but it is still down there in tier 4, unfortunately. Slightly above that, we've got the Unbound Hellamite. This is a really weird one, and maybe I just can't get my head around the full mechanics of it, but the Unbound Hellamite is a Hellamite that you take when you're mounted on another Hellamite, so that you can jump from mount to mount, basically. It's pretty cool. It's got some cool some cool mechanics around it and stuff, but as an actual pet otherwise, it doesn't really do anything. It's not particularly good at fighting. It's fast, sure, but it is a mount. It's also a pet. It's kind of a weird one. I had to include it in here because it is actually a pet, but it's just not very exciting, unfortunately. Again, I haven't actually had any experiences with this in game, but when I read it on the page, it just doesn't really stand out to me as a very good one. It's okay cost-wise, but other than that, I can't see any really redeeming qualities there. But again, correct me if I'm wrong there. And unfortunately, at the top of tier 4, the bottom tier, we've got the Hardcase Mastiff. Now, previously, before the new Enforcer book came out, I would say the Hardcase Mastiff was one of the best pets in the game. However, its cost has been increased so much that it's now just not worth taking, in my opinion. Again, it's fun. It looks cool. We've got plastic miniatures of them now as well, which is great. And, it's still a very good pet in its own right. It's just far too expensive now, unfortunately. It does get some cool stuff. It's tough. It's got good armor. Otherwise, it's better than the other two dogs in the game, but it is unfortunately just far too expensive. So I rest my case with that one. Okay, tier 3, these are the kind of unexciting, fairly average ones generally. At the bottom of tier 3, I've got the Sheen Bird. This is a Cawdor pet, and where Cawdor really are a hoardy gang and want to scrimp and save on cheap stuff, generally the Sheen Bird, again, its problem is it's too expensive. In fact, you'll find me saying this throughout this entire video, is that most of the pets are way overcosted for what they do. The Sheen Bird is a good example of that. It just isn't very good for what it does. They look cool, and I like having flappy little cyber birds around. I really like crows and magpies myself as animals. I think they're awesome. Fluff-wise, it's really cool, but again, it just isn't that good, unfortunately, and that's why it's just in tier 3 here. Similarly, we have the Grapple Hawk. We're not talking about the massive Grapple Hawk that you get access to with the Lady of Ash, because she is awesome, and so is it. However, the average run-of-the-mill Grapple Hawk has some interesting special rules, but unfortunately, it just isn't the most exciting pet. It is very maneuverable and fast and stuff. It can flap around and it can do some cool stuff, but otherwise, it just isn't a particularly good pet for the cost again. The first of the squat pets here, we have the Techmite Autoveyor. This is the sort of average bog standard one. It's got some nifty special rules and it can have some cool little weapons on it. But again, unfortunately, you're just increasing the cost of something that's already quite expensive by giving it more bolt spitters and other things like that. So I don't think it offers anything to squats really that they can't do anyway, and it is the worst pet out of the 3 that they get access to as well, because it's the least tough one as well. Then we have the Cephalopod Spectre. Now I love these guys. I think they're really cool, and they're actually very interesting as well. They're not very boring. When you look at them on the page, they aren't particularly good at anything, but they've got some good special rules and utility that you can use them for. They can protect your guys quite well with their sort of shock attacks and things like that. And the models are really cute. They're like miniature things out of the Matrix, which looks pretty cool. I can't remember what those things are called, but I quite like the Cephalopod, to be honest. It's in here at, 26 points? In fact, 26 points across the board for most of tier 3. The Cephalopod has its uses. It's just not that great overall, really. And again, it's quite expensive for what it does. The fact that you can get 3 of them from Forge World with the Mind-Locked Weird is interesting, but I haven't really seen anybody run Cephalopod Spectres in their Delat gangs because the preference really is for the Psychoteric Worm because it's so much better. Right, the next one is the Techmite Excavator. This is the slightly tougher, or Excavator. This is the slightly tougher squat one. The reason why I put this higher is just that. It's basically a lot tougher. It's toughness 4, and it does some interesting things. It's similar to the Auto Veya, and again, you can upgrade it with weapons and sort of equipment and stuff as well, but the main problem, like I've said with all of these, is it's just quite expensive for what it does, especially if you want to upgrade and give it good weapons and stuff like that. But otherwise, you know, they're cute. They're a bit like Wally, but not to my liking. I would usually skip on these guys. Unless you get them for free with your claim jumper or something like that, I would probably avoid them. The second of our cats now, we have the Phoenix cat. This one is available with your wild runners. They're okay. They're just okay. The fact that you can have lots of them is cool. They're okay in terms of their cost as well. Do they offer Escher anything new? Not really. I think they're best used as a screen, and I also think they're best used as a free tactics card as well, because you can get 3 of them for free, I believe, with one of the Escher tactics cards. Personally, I much prefer the Fur Cat, which we're going to talk about in a minute, because they're just really, really dangerous. These guys, not so dangerous. If you get lucky, though, they have toxin bites as well. But they're an okay pet. They're quite fast, they're quite maneuverable, and they're a good sort of screen as well. They're just not very tough, unfortunately. We've then got this fluffy little guy, the Gyrinx cat, or Gyrinx. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to say this, but it's a cool model that you can actually get on an Eldar character, an Eldari character. I used the head and converted it into a outcast mutant, which I thought was pretty cool, a felinid sort of humanoid cat person. This is an interesting one. I think, again, this is a problem that we see in Necromunda, is that the rules for the Gyrinx, or I'm going to say Gyrinx, were written so long ago now that it's a bit outdated, unfortunately. It was written way before the rules for all the weird powers came in. So it does suffer from having a selection of weird powers that you, A, have to randomize from, because this is a psychic cat, by the way. So, you know, you'd be very lucky if you get a decent one, but, you know, the choice that you get access to here is not that decent overall anyway. You know, freeze time is quite good. You've got quickening in there, I think, as well. But unfortunately, again, like if this was redone, or if an arbitrator got their hands on the Gyrinx cat and just gave it access to some, maybe give it the random assortment from one of the skill trees in the weird powers. That's what I would do as an arbitrator. I'd say, right, pick biomancy or technomancy or pyromancy, and then roll for the weird power in there per game as well. And I think that's how you'd fix it. Otherwise, it's pretty cute. You know, it's a cat. It's awesome. So it's better than a dog, generally. Easier to look after as well. Smarter, cleaner, just better all round. I like it. It's cool. I've used them in my gangs, and, you know, they tend to die, unfortunately. But that's just the way of things. And again, very expensive and very rare and hard to get hold of as well, unfortunately. We've then got the Cherub. Now, this thing is available for Redemptionists. I would put it higher because the mechanics for this is really good. It's basically got a sort of bodyguard mechanic in it. You can transfer the hits of an attack onto your Cherub instead of you. The Cherub does have a decent save as well, so, you know, some of the time the Cherub survives, but in my experience, I've used Cherubs quite a bit. They tend to just die, and when they cost as much as they do, it's just not really worth it. It can be really clutch, though. It can really save your leader or a champion from getting absolutely smushed with a heavy bolter or something. But honestly, for the cost, often it's not worth it. At the top of tier 3 here, we've got the Necromundan Giant Rat. I flipping love giant rats. They're awesome. I used to have a pet rat as well called Errol. This guy is, 50 credits. So it's slightly cheaper than a lot of the others. It's still too expensive for what it does, but it's actually pretty nifty. It can get around. It's fairly fast. It's got okay close combat. It's quite hard to hit, and it has a decent save as well. So I quite like the giant rat, and I just think it's very, very Necromunda to have a giant rat as a pet. The best thing about the giant rat is that everybody can have access to one as well, which is pretty cool. I believe they're common from the trading post too, so anyone can get them. You could use the stats for a giant rat and use a spider model or a doggy model or something like that as well, which I have done. But I do quite like the giant rat. I know it's not very good, and it's probably my heart putting it to the top of tier 3, but I just think it's a cool pet, really. Okay, we're getting into the sort of good ones now with tier 2. We've got the Techmite Oculi, which is the better of the 3 squat pets, if you ask me. It can fly, it can do some really cool targeting stuff, and it's just quite an interesting pet, really zooming along the board and giving you something that you don't have in a squat list, which is speed, I suppose. Speed and maneuverability. Sure, it can't do anyone any damage, but the special rules around this guy are pretty cool, which is why I've put him here on 27 points as well. Above that, we've got the Caryatid Prime, not the Caryatid. This is the one that is exclusive to Spirers. Now, I think it really is quite situational, the Caryatid Prime, and you're not going to give the Caryatid Prime to something that doesn't have a big shooting threat. Generally speaking, I would give the Caryatid Prime to an Horus or to the Sthenian, perhaps. I've got a Sthenian Spiral, which is going to have the Caryatid Prime as well. The Caryatid Prime, what it does, it's similar to a normal Caryatid. Instead of getting the sort of save, the precognition save on your guy, you instead get to re-roll an ammo check and an armor save per turn, which is pretty damn good, really, and it stacks up. Trust me, on the Horus, I have the Volkites, actually, because I just think they're more interesting. I know they're not as good as the bolt launchers, but I've got the Volkite discharges and they've got a shit ammo, so using this guy on them actually saves them from running out too much and means that they're more reloadable as well with your 2 activations and stuff. So I do quite like the Caryatid Prime. It isn't the best one in the game, it's certainly not as good as a Caryatid, but it's pretty cool. The model's great as well. Then we have the Tyromite. Now the Tyromite is exclusive to Malstrain gangs, and I think they are really, really dangerous. They have a Rad Phage Toxin attack. They're average on the weapon skill. They're incredibly fast. They fly, very maneuverable, and I wish you could get them on other gangs. Unfortunately, they are only available to Malstrain. They're quite expensive. I think off the top of my head, they're 70 credits, but they come in built with mesh armor and a bio booster. And yeah, Toxin, Rad Phage, things like that. What's not to like? I think the Tyromite is actually a really good pet. I just wish it was more readily available for other gangs, but it wouldn't make sense in the lore anyway because it's absolutely gross. It's basically a tick. Now for the Fear Cat. This one is really good, actually. I had a Fear Cat once charge my Ambot that I just bought in a campaign, take it out of action with 1 charge action with its massively high damage claws. I failed my saves, and yeah, lots and lots of damage stacked up there. My Ambot was gone in its first game. So yeah, pretty damn good. Never underestimate the Fear Cat. They look cool. They're a really, really cool pet. They're like a large sort of tiger type animal. And I think they are very expensive again, like a lot of the other pets, but they're just flipping cool. And they can dish out an awful lot of damage. If you've got one of these guys on, one of your champions or your Escher gang queen or something, then people are going to give you a wide berth, honestly. And the fact that you can keep them on a long leash too just makes them really, really good. So I think the Fur Cat is definitely in the upper echelons of the pet tier list here. Nearing the top of tier 2, we have the Spineworm, the Anthromite Spineworm. These things are pretty decent. They have burrowing, they have a nasty bite with rending as well. They have they have an okay save, and I think mostly the fact that you can infiltrate them with your hunters and stuff is pretty damn good. They're also not that expensive for what they do, and I think with a burrowing guy that can charge under stuff, it's pretty cool, and they're really annoying, honestly. Nice little models as well, and I think they definitely deserve to be up nearer the top here. Okay, so the top of tier 2 with 29 points, we have the Psychoteric Worm. This is the Delac pet that I alluded to earlier being better than the Cephalopod. It's a very different thing, but the fact that you use these as Psychoteric nodes, and it means that you can extend the range of your Psychoterica, makes these guys very, very valuable. Do not underestimate how good the Psychoteric Worm can be. If you've got a few of these in your gang later on in the campaign and you can afford them, they are so, so good and so valuable for doing real shenanigans with Psychoterica. Okay, now we're into the top tier with tier 1 now. We've got the Familiar. This is the Psychic Familiar that you get access to with your Chaos Helots and with your Gene Stealer Cult. It is basically the same creature, the same pet, and they are really, really good. We all know how good these guys are. I think most people, I don't know if it's an official nerf, but the fact that you can only use these guys once per turn now is what most arbitrators do, but they are so powerful. All you need to do is pass your willpower check to avoid your owner being hit by an attack. It's pretty damn brilliant, especially when these guys cost absolutely next to nothing. It baffles me how all the other pets are so expensive for what they do, and this guy is so unbelievably cheap for what it does. you're going to want to take one or two of these in your gangs. If you're playing Genestealer Cult or Chaos Helots and you're not including a Psychic Familiar, you're absolutely mad, because those two gangs just aren't very good anyway. They need a little bit of a leg up, and the way that you do that is with Familiars, unfortunately. It can get very annoying if people try and stack them and have lots and lots of them, but it is... Oi! This is what you need for those Psychic Familiars, a little fly swat. Next we have the Ashwing Hellamite. This thing's flipping awesome. They are costed well and they are really scary. You can put a lure down wherever you like and just have these guys flapping around the board. I think they're really, really good pets, and they're only available for nomads. Decent in close combat with multiple attacks. These guys can be really, really annoying pests, and, you know, they're huge flying wasp sort of creatures. Very, very cool. They look great as well. And the fact that we've got them in plastic now too means that they're readily available. Really good pet, the Ashwing Hellamite. Nothing really to not like about it. The fact that it's flying, the fact that you've got it on a leash that you can just put anywhere on the board and carry it around like a loot casket. These guys are a threat as well. They can really hurt stuff, particularly if you've got 2 or 3 of them, and mob stuff. They're really, really good. So yeah, getting right to the top now, we have the Cyberarachnid. The Cyberarachnid is flipping awesome. This guy is costed pretty well for what it does. The main thing about the Cyberarachnid, this is the Van Saar pet by the way, is that it has a web gun. Yes, it's only a strength 2 web gun, but it's basically a web gun. And web is just so powerful. It's going to pin you anyway, and it's going to auto hit you as well. This thing's very maneuverable. It's fearsome. It's got clamber. It gets all over the place, and if you've got 1 or 2 of these in a Van Saar gang, they're really, really good anti-charge kind of guys. Like, people are not going to want to get close to you if you've got several Cyberarachnids at all. You can keep people at arm's length and just shoot them with your las weapons and your plasma weapons. So I think the Cyberarachnid offers a lot to Van Saar gangs. It's a really good counter-charge sort of pet here, and they're just flipping awesome, really, aren't they? The miniatures are okay. Personally, I used to use my own mantic little spiders as well that look pretty cool, but yeah, they are just an excellent pet, and they're right up the top here at 31 points. Last of tier 1, of course, we've got the Caryatid. This is also on 31 points, and it's basically just like the Familiar, but just better. It is just awesome. I think the fact that it's a flying baby just makes it really cool as well. So that's why I've put the Caryatid at the top. But yeah, if you get one of these guys, I mean, the cost, obviously, the main reason why they just pip the Familiar is because they're free. You get them free in a campaign if you get really famous and start winning loads of games and you get really high rep and stuff. So, you know, when you get rewarded with a Caryatid, it feels special. Your gang is special. Your gang leader's awesome. And when you lose them, it hurts so much. So, yeah, the Caryatid is really awesome, and it just sort of typifies everything that's cool about Necromunda. It's very grimdark. Flying blue baby, what's not to like? Right, you ready for tier 0? We have a special one today. We have Bruce. My cat Bruce, and the best animal that I've ever known in my entire 44 years of existence. We have Bruce here. The most fluffy, the most elegant little prince of darkness, Bruce. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back real soon with another one. Peace out. Say bye, Bruce.